Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this session of WorldSkills Conference 2021. My name is Karen McGuire, and I'm calling in here from Paris, where it's about 11:15 in the morning. I'm coming in from the OECD, an organization that focuses on all sorts of different economic and social policies, and in particular from a team looking at local employment, skills, and social innovation. So today, we are here to discuss some really important issues that are part of the broader work stream of this conference, in particular, the track on poverty alleviation. And this is really a new topic within the WorldSkills conversation, but really I think a welcome addition, because as you'll hear from the speakers today, there's some really powerful opportunities with capitalizing on skills for employment and inclusion and poverty alleviation all around the world. So this is part of a track that had some previous sessions already as part of the program you have with you. A previous session on building skills for resilient societies, and one earlier today on strengthening inclusivity, new learning models. And so today's session, really we have a goal of being inspired by the success stories of our panelists that they're going to share, and learn a bit about their motivation and the institutional support that they have encountered in the context of their different programs and stories, and then maybe some lessons for all of us on how to scale up and replicate the innovations that they have highlighted. So just as a reminder on housekeeping, there is, of course, interpretation services into Chinese language, if you can see that on the bottom of your Zoom screen. And also that if you would like to ask questions of our panelists, please use the question and answer function there you have on Zoom. Go ahead and type your questions at any time so we can see them as they're coming up. And then there'll be some opportunities during the discussion to bring in your questions. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel, and you can see their faces here calling in from lots of different places around the world. So I first want to introduce Leo Rodriguez, WorldSkills Champions Trust from Brazil. Welcome, Leo. And Leo, tell us where you're calling in from today.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's a huge pleasure to be here this morning for me, this afternoon for other people. I am from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I'm here to contribute with wherever I can.
Great. Thanks so much, Leo. So we'll call on you to give a bit more of your story in a moment. I'll just introduce the other two panelists real quick, and then we'll jump in to your in-depth story, which I think it will be inspiring for a lot of people here today. Our second panelist is Mindy Lorado Lusaba, and she's helped found the Domestic Workers Association in Zimbabwe. So Mindy, welcome. And would you like to tell everyone what time it is and where you're calling in from?
Hello, I'm calling in from Zimbabwe, Harare, just a small country in the southern region of Africa, and it's exactly 11:19 in Zimbabwe. I'm super excited to be here, and I hope to share with everyone.
Great, thank you so much. I didn't realize we were on the same time zone there. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Some commonalities. And then finally, I wanted to introduce Marguerite Clark of the World Bank. And Marguerite, just let us know where you are and what time it is, because I think you've also had a different time zone to worry about.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm calling in from Washington, D.C., and it's 5:19 a.m. here in the morning, but I'm very happy and excited to be here, and I'll be sharing stories from India, where I was based for a few years. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much, Marguerite. So we have an opportunity now to hear a bit more from each one of our speakers, and then to ask a few questions as we go along. So again, don't hesitate to use the question and answer function. So Leo, why don't you come back center stage for us here today? And I know that you've got an opportunity that you had through apprenticeships and has really had a life-changing effect on a number of fronts. And it's also led to entrepreneurship and innovations and all sorts of exciting things. So
Yes.
Leo, please feel free to tell us in the next 10 minutes about your journey and how this can also then inspire some others. So please, Leo.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. The moment that I got invited for this panel, I felt, oh my God, I'm gonna share my story. My personal story really matches this theme, and I'm here to share this with you. And as we are going to talk about improving employment outcomes through skills, I want to share with you my personal story of how skills has changed my life. Well, as you know, I am Leo Rodriguez, and I am a jeweler, but I wasn't born like this. I am from Rio de Janeiro, the wonderful city, a place with an amazing energy, with welcoming people and incredible landscapes. The home of the Christ Redeemer, the Sugarloaf, the Copacabana Beach, and the celebrations of Carnival and New Year's evening. Much less celebrated, but not less important, there are also the favelas here. You may have heard about it. They are a place of social vulnerability, generally poorly constructed, without much infrastructure. Today, the favelas are the home of 23% of Rio's population. It is about 1.4 million people. I was born in a Brazilian favela here. In a hard reality, my parents didn't have much money, but what they gave me was priceless. The knowledge and the support to achieve all of my goals. My life-changing experience with skills started about 10 years ago. I was just a boy that had a dream to travel by airplane, but my parents could not buy me a ticket to fly around the world. But I also remember them saying, Leo, if you want something, you go there and get it. You are responsible for yourself. And if something goes wrong, don't worry, mom and dad are at home to help you start again. And that's what I did. To achieve my dream, which was traveling by airplane, I used it to look to the sky and think, how can that fly? And I really wanted to go inside of one of those things. I started to look for a job, a temporary job during the Christmas season when I was 15 years old. I just wanted a job that could pay my ticket to fly, but it gave me one opportunity that changed my life forever. I was selected to be a jeweler apprentice in a huge jewelry company named H. Stern here in Rio. When I started to learn the jewelry skills, I really fell in love with it. And in that moment that I realized that I could transform gold and silver into beautiful pieces according to what the customer wants and see them so happy with the piece that I created, I knew I really want to do that for life. And while I was learning this new skill, I met a guy that was training really, really hard, at least 8 hours a day for a WorldSkills competition. That was the first moment I ever heard about this amazing movement. And that was also the time I decided I would do my best to go for this competition. I saw a door of opportunity that would change my reality. I challenged myself to achieve competing in WorldSkills, the place where I would be on a stage for the whole world to see me and where I could show everybody my passion for the skill that was changing my life. And it really did, you know. I got a little emotional when I remember everything that I went through. What started as a dream to fly has transformed everything. I've experienced different cultures, and my understanding of my vision of the world has expanded far beyond the walls of the favela. When I won a gold medal at WorldSkills Sao Paulo 2015, the world was seeing a boy that came from a place of social vulnerability, all because that boy had one opportunity to learn a skill that he felt in love with. My life was transformed because of skills. And I want everyone here, everyone in the world, and specifically everyone that is watching us here, to have the opportunity to do the same. You see, as we are living this pandemic situation in Brazil, Brazil has around 14 million unemployed people. At the same time, big companies are looking to fill many technical job positions and are facing a challenge to do so. This is the result, obviously, because of this crazy pandemic, but also because of years and years of negligence on the part of the government to build public policies that promote technical education. And thinking about that, I wonder, what if learning skills could reach more young people? What would be the impact on our society if more people are higher educated and have a profession, a career they really like and are prepared for? What if they had hope to reach the sky like I did? They would receive higher income salaries, be able to support themselves, and transform their realities for their families and their communities. What would be of our economies? Society is more dynamic, responsive to inequities, and building opportunities for those who need it in the most. Well, after the competition, I started my own jewelry brand here, and now I sell all over Brazil. Even the president has worn my work, one of my jewels. I made it specific for her at that time. I really love to do what I do. As a Brazilian entrepreneur, I am building my own future with the dream to create jobs for other young people. I know this dream I have is not that simple, but I know it's not that impossible. We have to do our part. I believe we have to do our part to touch other people's lives. I am the proof, I am the living proof, I say it for my friends, that skills really change lives. And I know, I really know, because of that, if we put our efforts together for skills to change another life, and another life, and a friend's life, and a friend of a friend's life, and the other life, one day we will see entire nations being changed by the power of skills, the same way my life has changed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leo. And I know that, I personally was very inspired by this. And as you said, in a sense, we have this expression, the sky is the limit, but you started with the sky as your inspiration. I just a couple quick questions for you. And of course, if the audience has any questions, please use the special function on Zoom. But you talked a lot about, you got some technical skills through your apprentice,
yes.
But then you went and became an entrepreneur. And
Yes.
and I'm just curious if you could help people understand a bit how you got the kinds of skills for entrepreneurship to complement the skills that you got from the technical apprenticeship program at that had you at H. Stern, who I know is sells jewelry worldwide, and I see it in the U.S. So.
And you want to know how did I get the skills to become an entrepreneur?
Exactly. Is it personal? Is it sort of personal grit from your own, passion? Were you able to learn
First,
from others? Yeah.
to be very honest, to be very, very, very honest, at the first moment, it was really a need. Because when I came back from WorldSkills, I was in the middle of one of the worst economic crises here in Brazil. And I said, okay, I don't need to wait for people to give me a job. I will create my own opportunities, you know? And the skills like the general skills like resilience that as you have to have as to be a competitor and be focused and really want what you are looking for. I brought this skills from the competition, and I said that's what I gotta do, And I started my business, knowing not a lot of things of how is it to run a business, but I've learned in the process, But this is skills like resilience and
Oh, I
how
think,
do I say
is it
that?
just me?
When you
Okay.
pass over a barrier, I forgot this expression. When you do that, and can you hear me? Can you
Now
hear
we
me?
can. Yeah, you were just saying how you kind of learned on the way and the sort of skills of resilience, and then we lost you for a second, Leo. You can go back for a second and tell us what you were saying.
No, it's all good. I'm sorry. Yes, I've learned it in the way, First of all, it was a need, and then I brought the other skills like resilience, like really wanting, like focus, and I put it in my business. And after that, I've learned that I to deal with paying taxes, pay salary for everybody, to deal with customers, to deal with retailers, and a lot of things. And I thought when I started that being an entrepreneur was something magical and something easy, but the reality is different, very different. But it is very, very rewarding.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, because I know, there's lots of different skills for success, and some of those skills you learned, it sounds like, from your home that helped you then stick to it and complement some of the other technical training you received. So just one other quick question, and then we'll move on. But I know that in some of your other areas, you've talked about how you've done some innovations as well in the way that you design jewelry with co-creation with customers and things like that. And I think that's really exciting that not only have you gotten certain sets of skills, but you're actually producing even more innovations in your work. And so if you want to just share with people about how you thought about this new business model and started to use it.
It's so interesting how you asked me this, because this complements the first question. I told you, like, after the competition, I was in the middle of economic crisis, and I had to think about something different to offer to people. And I thought, what will I do? If I do the same jewelry that people can buy at the mall, I'm not that different. I'm just a boy that is making jewelry. So what I thought at that time, what can I do to be different? And I started to make jewelry. I tell people this story that I started to make jewelry that people didn't find in the mall, in the shop, in a jewelry traditional. Like, I use it to come to my customer and say, what you don't find in the market, you come to me and we will design it specifically for you. Even for better prices than in the shop, because I'm smaller, I can do better prices. So again, I think it was more a need than other thing. I had to be innovative And this need to be innovative gave me this thought of working with the customer as a co-creator, of the pieces. And it went really well. I am here, and for the first time, I'm going to announce it here. For the first time, I will make my own collection, like from the beginning. I am drawing, I am producing, and this is the first collection that produces my story and my way of life, and it has a little bit of real feeling, and it's going to be awesome.
Great.
For the
Well,
first
thank you
time,
so
because
much.
I also work with the customer, and it's awesome. It's a new step.
No, it's really exciting, and I think it's actually an inspiration for many people around the world. Not only your story, but also the way that you've approached this business and the skills that you've acquired before and along the way. So thank you so much, Leo. And I think we have maybe in the panel later on we can talk about how to make sure that all these other hidden Leos around the world get opportunities. So we'll talk about that maybe in the panel discussion, because I see some questions starting to come up on that front. So thank you so much. And I'm going to turn now to Mindy Lorado. Yeah, thank you. To Mindy Lorado Lusaba. And Mindy, welcome. You're calling in here from Zimbabwe. And you've helped found a Domestic Workers Association, and I think there's a lot of exciting lessons here that in developing skills and improving job quality for a lot of workers in a very important sector. So Mindy, we really look forward to hearing about how you went about developing this really inspirational program.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much, Roderick, for your presentation. I was actually smiling and laughing and also very touched with your presentation. So well done there. So my name is Mindy Lorado Lusaba, as stated, and I am from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a small country that is found in the southern region of Africa. We have a population of approximately 13.9 million people. However, in the past 20 years or so, we have been having economic and social and also political challenges. This has seen unemployment rising to almost 98%. That's the estimated unemployment rate in Zimbabwe. The poverty levels in Zimbabwe are also alarming. We have also a large population of our members that are actually staying in the rural areas. So like most African countries, Zimbabwe has got population divided into the urban areas and also into the rural areas. There is also a sector within Zimbabwe which is largely marginalized and very unprofessionalized, but which is very helpful. Internationally, the domestic workers are actually considered to be one of the oldest professions, but very little has been done to improve the lives and the sector itself. I started the Domestic Workers Association of Zimbabwe. And we have got members in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Botswana. We also have individuals that are working in Mozambique, Namibia, and Zambia. From our economic challenges, majority of the Zimbabwean ladies are actually migrating to other countries, and most of them are illegal migrants. They are going to other Southern African countries where they are actually working as domestic workers. We now have the Domestic Workers Association of Zimbabwe with these ladies, and majority of them are ladies, with these ladies and also a few men who work as gardeners and housekeepers. Through ILO and the government of Zimbabwe and other partners, we were able to set up the Domestic Workers Center in Zimbabwe. The center is there to replicate a house where we are saying we have individuals that are coming from rural areas to work in the urban areas. However, there is a skills gap as their lives in the rural areas and the ones where they are going to work is actually different. So we have set up a training center where they are coming in and we're actually training them. We also developed a curriculum with the Ministry of Education in Zimbabwe, where we have got 4 core qualifications, that is housekeeping, caring for family members, gardening, cooking and baking. This curriculum is also going to be online. We are in the process of finalizing the online platform for our members that are outside Zimbabwe that are unable to participate or attend through the physical center in Zimbabwe. Because the center is only in Harare, in Zimbabwe, we have also engaged the Ministry of Youth through their TVET colleges. We have a lot of vocational training centers in Zimbabwe, and in each and every province, we have a vocational training center for the Ministry of Youth. So we are working with the government to cascade this very same curriculum so that it can be offered through the vocational training centers. This way, we are now creating employment for the domestic workers. We are also professionalizing this sector, which is also marginalized. We are also helping the migrant Zimbabweans who are working as domestic workers to get some sort of qualification. We have a membership of over 1,600 domestic workers, and we have done online trainings throughout this COVID season. We have managed to help our members in Zimbabwe, our members in South Africa, and our members in Botswana. We continue to hold these various trainings, and we are hoping that more and more domestic workers actually get the training that they need. By so doing, they are also able to get or to bargain for better salaries in their employment. They are also able to get better paying jobs, whether in Zimbabwe or in other countries. Also, we want them to have a skill. Majority of the domestic workers have never gotten any certificate. They have never trained in anything. And not only are they being assisted technically, but even for their self-esteem, even for themselves. Also, we believe once they are able to get better jobs, better salaries, they are also better able to help their families. Majority of the domestic workers are now able to send their children to better schools. They are now also able to send their parents to hospitals. They are also better able to take care of themselves, which they were not able to do when they were not employed. We are also advocating for domestic work as an employment option because it does not require any tertiary education. It does not require any minimum education, as long as you can read or write, or even if you cannot read or write, but you can use your technical skills, then you can be trained as a domestic worker and you can also have a source of income. This is what we are doing in Zimbabwe. We are hoping to cascade it to other African countries. We are hoping to have the very same centers in South Africa, in Botswana. It is the first of its kind in our country and also the first of its kind in our region. We are proud to say that we have done it, and we are looking forward to even replicate it to other countries that want to do the same. We have been approached by a similar organization, the Domestic Workers Association of Kenya, who are also interested in what we are doing. So we are also very keen on assisting other countries improve the lives and the skills of the domestic workers. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mindy. I see some applauses and some some virtual, yes, there we go. Mindy, this hits so many different buttons that are super exciting. In terms of this session on improving employment outcomes through skills, I mean, it really, it hits it at a grand scale, and you've really shown a number of elements about how to get people into training, how to then get that training recognized, how to get the facilities for it, how to scale it up through your linkages with the different training centers to replicate. So really exciting. Could you tell us a little bit, what were some of the challenges you had to getting this set up? Because I'm sure other countries would really want to learn and benefit from this model that you've developed. So could you tell us a little bit about, a lesson learned or something that you had to struggle with that you were able to overcome so that other folks who are trying to do similar kinds of innovations in their skill systems can benefit from your hard work?
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your support. So Domestic Quakers Association of Zimbabwe was just a small organization. We had a very small team, and I'm super glad that we had a big brother that actually recognized our efforts. The International Labour Organization actually came through for us. So they helped us financially, they also helped us technically. And with that kind of assistance, we're now also able to even approach the government. We're also even able to approach other partners. So money is needed, yes. Capital is needed, yes. But I also realized that before you search for money or look for other partners, just begin where you are. Because when ILO found us, we are already doing something with the little resources that we had. For instance, we did not have a specific online platform. So we used to do our lessons on WhatsApp, and we still do our lessons on WhatsApp. For us in Zimbabwe, it works very well because majority of the domestic Quakers do not have computers. They do not have access to data. And majority are also not technical savvy. So the easiest way for us was to actually use WhatsApp. It also covers the geographical differences. If you're in Zimbabwe, if you're in South Africa, if you're in Botswana, as long as you have got a WhatsApp platform, then you can also join our classes. So we had already started our WhatsApp classes. So when ILO came, they were like a big brother saying, we have seen how you were struggling and we're here to help you. So it actually gave us the boost that we needed to actually set up. So partnerships are very important. You just need partners. And for instance, we were not able to do it on our own to have the curriculum, but now we are working with the government and we have offered the government that very same curriculum, and it's now being recognized as an official curriculum, where we are now having domestic work as part of the curriculums, which is offered at all vocational training centers in Zimbabwe. So persistence is very important. Just don't give up if you feel you've got something that is worth it. Somebody will come and recognize you and they'll help you up, like what International Labour Organization did for us.
Great. Well, thank you, Mindy. I'm glad that big brothers and big sisters all over the world can help with scaling these exciting programs up. And, you know, I think I see in the question, there's a very specific one that maybe I'll post to you now from Kenneth Shikanga, who was asking about the modules that are covered in the domestic working curriculum. If you want to just answer that question for one of our listeners here today.
All right. So we have 4 core technical courses. We have cooking and baking. We are actually having both practical and online classes. We offer the practical classes at our center. We also have the caring for family members, where we also have a special emphasis for caring for children and babies and caring for the elderly. Then the third one is also gardening. Majority of the male domestic workers in Zimbabwe are actually gardeners. So we have this curriculum and this qualification, which covers the gardening aspect of domestic work, which is usually the outside one. Then the final one is housekeeping, which is concerned with the cleaning and all the general work that is done inside a house. So we actually have 4 core qualifications. We do both online and we also have practical classes. And our approach is actually of a blended learning course, because we are saying a number of the domestic workers themselves are already at work. They're in different locations. So we can have it online. We can have it physical. Those that are near the center can come. Those that are not near the center then can use the vocational training centers in and around their provinces. If you're outside Zimbabwe, then you can use the online platform.
Great, excellent. Thanks so much, Mindy, for helping to answer that question. And then we'll have an opportunity to exchange in a few more moments as we get to the broader panel discussion. So I'm going to turn now to Marguerite Clark of the World Bank, and she's going to help tell us about a really exciting initiative within India, Nai Manzil, I should say. And so Marguerite, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I know you'll have some intro, and then we'll all get the benefit of a video about the program. So Marguerite, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Karen, and thanks to everyone for joining us today in this session, and it's great to have the opportunity. So I'd like to take you all now to the subcontinent of India. We're moving around the world again from Brazil over to the other side. And India, as you know, is a massive, basically a subcontinent of 1.38 billion people. It's a lower middle income country. The poverty rate has reduced considerably over the last decade. It halved, but COVID has worsened the situation again. Most of the population in India is Hindu, about 80% of that 1.38 billion. The other 20% is what is referred to as minority religious groups. So in India, minority means religious groups that are not Hindu. So that's the 20% remaining of the population. And those minority groups are Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, Parsi, Sikh, and Jain. There's a Ministry of Minority Affairs that focuses on policies and programs for minority groups. And the Nine Manzil scheme was one of those initiatives of the Ministry of Minority Affairs that the World Bank supported from 2017 to 2021, really focused on trying to improve education and skilling outcomes for out-of-school minority youth. A lot of minority groups in India have worse education, skilling, jobs, just general overall worse outcomes than the majority group. So the focus was on trying to find ways to give them a leg up, give them a pathway out of poverty. That's where Nine Manzil came in. It focused on bringing out-of-school minority youth into programs that gave them 6 months of education, leading to a Class 8 or a Class 10 certificate, plus 3 months of skill training, leading to a nationally recognized skills certificate, and then helping to set them up in jobs. So I wanted to, you don't just need to hear this from me, I'd like you to hear about how this program affected participants' lives by sharing with you a video we made based on 3 of those participants. 2 of them you'll hear from are women, and 1 is a man. This kind of represented, we had mainly women in the program, so it kind of represents the proportion. The people you're going to hear from now, their names are Sujita, Hussain, and Mustafa, and they're talking in their own local Indian languages, explaining the effect of the program on them, but you'll see English subtitles at the bottom of the video. It's just 4 minutes long, so let's break now, let's listen to them, and then I'll bring you back and reflect on some lessons we learned from Sujita, Hussain, and Mustafa, and the participants more generally, that hopefully can help inform schemes like this moving forward. So let's go to the video now, please. Thank you.
അതായത് 15ാമത്തെ വയസ്സിൽ വിവാഹം കഴിഞ്ഞു. അപ്പോൾ ആ സമയങ്ങളിലൊക്കെ കളിച്ച് നടക്കുന്നതായതുകൊണ്ട് പഠിക്കാനുള്ളൊരു അങ്ങോട്ടുള്ളൊരു ചിന്ത വന്നില്ല. കല്യാണമൊക്കെ കഴിഞ്ഞ് হাউস ওয়াইফൊക്കെ ആയപ്പോൾ ഒരു പഠിക്കാനുള്ള চিন্তা വന്നു.
আর স্বপ্ন আছে আরও মানে বিএড করতাম। বিয়ে করার পরে বিয়ে 3 বছর কাটার পরে যদি পাস করি বিয়ে পরে আমি ডিএলএড করব।
मैं 10th में फेल हो गया। मैंने अपना पढ़ाई वहीं पर रोक दिया क्योंकि मेरे घर में भी पैसों की थोड़ी कमी हो रही थी और ऊपर मेरी बड़ी बहन की शादी भी आ रही थी।
কেন ফাইনাল দেওয়ালে রেজাল্ট খারাপ হয়েছে, এরপরে গিয়া মানে আমি যে 1 বছর গ্যাপ নিয়েছিলাম কি স্যার আমার ডেইলি ক্লাস করিয়ে আনিছিল, মানে আমরা আমি একলা নাই, মানে আমরা সবরে সেজন্য আমরা পাস করছি সব। এর বাদে আমি নাইমুদ্দিন সেন্টার থেকে মানে খাতা পাইছি, বই পাইছি, কলম পাইছি।
എപ്പോഴും പോസിറ്റീവായിട്ട് ചിന്തിക്കും, നെഗറ്റീവായിട്ട് ഒരിക്കലും ചിന്തിക്കില്ല. നൈമൻസെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താ പറയുക, എന്തായാലും എനിക്ക് നല്ല കാര്യങ്ങളെ നൈമൻസിന്ന് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളൂ. ഒരു തൊഴിലായാലും ഒന്ന് പഠിക്കാനുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളായാലും ഒക്കെ നൈമൻസിലൂടെയാണ് ഞാൻ ഇന്ന് ഈ നിലയിലെത്തിക്കുന്നത്. അതിന് ഒരുപാട് നന്ദിയുണ്ട് നൈമൻസിന്. അത് നൈമൻസിലൂടെയാണ് ആ ആഗ്രഹങ്ങൾ എനിക്ക് വന്നത് തന്നെ. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വീട്ടിൻ്റെ അകത്തിരുന്ന് ഇങ്ങനെ നേരം പോക്കുക എന്നല്ലാതെ ഇപ്പം നൈമൻസിൽ വന്നപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെ, അതായത് ആ ആഗ്രഹങ്ങൾ കുറച്ചൊക്കെ നടത്തുന്നുണ്ട്, ഇനി കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ഉണ്ട്, അത് നടത്തണം എന്നുള്ളൊരു വിശ്വാസമുണ്ട്, നടത്തും.
नई मंजिल में जो 10th का पढ़ाई ख़त्म किया और नर्सिंग का कोर्स भी मैंने अभी ख़त्म किया और मैं भी हॉस्पिटल में मैं जॉब भी कर रहा हूँ और मैं भी अब तो मैं काफ़ी अच्छा मैं सैलरी कमाने लगा हूँ, तो उससे मेरे घर में भी काफ़ी अच्छा चल रहा है और मैं और भी उससे आगे कुछ करना चाहता हूँ, तो मैं बेंगलोर जाना चाहता हूँ और वहाँ पर GNM का मैं डिग्री हासिल करना चाहता हूँ।
মন্দির থেকে আমি যে সময় সার্টিফিকেট দুটো পাইছি পাওয়ার পরে তো আমি ফার্স্ট ইয়ার অ্যাডমিশন এই ফার্স্ট সেকেন্ড ইয়ারও অ্যাডমিশন হয়েছি। তারপরে আমার উপরও আল্লাহ আল্লাহ মানে আশা করছি বা বাবারে নিয়ে বাবারে কইয়ার আল্লাহ আল্লাহ করবো বাবা কইতরা আচ্ছা 12 পাস করো, করার পরে দেখা যাবো করিয়া দেখাও আমি বাদে নিয়ে দেখাইমু তোমারে।
അതായത് ഇപ്പം ഞാനൊരു ഷോപ്പ് ഉണ്ട്, പിന്നെ 6 പേരാണ് അവിടെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, 4 പേര് വീട്ടിൽ കൊണ്ട് തയ്ക്കാൻ, അങ്ങനെ 10 പേര് തയ്ക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇനിയും എനിക്കൊരു ഷോപ്പും കൂടെ ഇടാനുള്ള ആഗ്രഹമുണ്ട്, ഇടുന്നുണ്ട്. ഏപ്രിൽ ലാസ്റ്റ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മാർച്ച് ഫസ്റ്റ് സീസണിൻ്റെ സമയമാണ്, അതുകൊണ്ട് ആ സമയത്ത് ഞാൻ ഒരു ഷോപ്പ് ഇടും. അവിടെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ ഇപ്പം 4 കുട്ടികളുണ്ട്. പിന്നെ ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു ലോൺ എഴുതി കൊടുത്തിക്കണ്, ആ ലോണും കൂടെ ഒന്ന് ശരിയായാൽ കുറച്ച് മെഷീനുകളുടെ ആവശ്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്, അതുകൊണ്ട് ശരിയായി തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അവിടെ ഒരു ഷോപ്പ് ഇടും.
Okay. So there we heard from Sajita and Hussein and Mustafa, and this program was implemented by the Ministry of Minority Affairs, and the World Bank was very grateful to have the chance to support with 50% of the funding for this scheme. But really, this is something that is being implemented by the ministry, which was set up in 2006 specifically to focus on the needs of minority youth. So, I think huge kudos to the ministry for having this vision and implementing it. I would just point out a few things that we've learned that we would hope to be able to support India going forward, but also in our programs around the world, what we learned from these stories. I mean, you saw that Sajita, Hussein, and Mustafa came in with different life contexts and circumstances, but they each got something out of the program. Sajita was able to set up her own tailoring business. Hussein was able to continue her education and hopefully now go on to university. And Mustafa was able to gain nursing skills that hopefully he can then continue to build qualifications in that area. Things that we've learned that we would hope to see replicated in schemes like this around the world are, number one, don't underestimate the demand from women for opportunities to do skills training, and try to design schemes with women in mind. India has a very low female labor force participation rate. It's about 21%, lowest in South Asia, among the lowest in the world. So when this nine-mantle scheme was being set up, the aim was that hopefully around 30% of participants, that was the end target, tried to get 30% of participants, that's female enrollees. It ended up being more than 50%. There was actually large demand, including from Muslim women who wanted to come into the program and learn some skills. And the attraction they saw in it was they wanted to learn skills that would allow them to set up businesses from home. Because one of the constraints on female participation in the workplace in India is the need to balance domestic responsibilities with also having a job and learning skills such as tailoring that allow you to set up a business from home, or a business like Sujita's, that allows you to balance your domestic responsibility with the work. It seemed to be something they found attractive about this scheme. Also, having the training centres based in communities across India that are close to people's homes, having flexible hours for the skills training, and having a stipend that allowed people to offset some of the opportunity costs of actually being present in the training and not in other places. That seemed to help too. So that was number one. Don't underestimate it. There is a lot of demand from women for this if you can set up the design appropriately. Number two, consciously build inclusion into your design. So when this program was open to minority youth, it was open to all minority youth, including those with disabilities, whether physical or a mild intellectual. And these youth did sign up for the scheme and they did succeed. But you need to offer the right kinds of options, the right kinds of skills training. So data entry and computers were areas that seem popular with some youth with disabilities and allow them to be successful and to get jobs afterwards. Also finding training centres that have experience with youth with disabilities and are willing to take them on is really important. And this is, I think, we're having a broader national policy framework and set of incentives to encourage training centres is really important. So that's number two, inclusion. Number three, we found it's really important to include an education component. So what we've seen is when youth have dropped out of school early and you want to bring them back in to have some kind of training, their level of education can act as a constraint. That if you don't have a certain level of numeracy or literacy skills, it's hard to access some of the more sophisticated skills training options out there. So by having an initial education piece and then coupling that with skills training, it can be easier for youth to access the skills training on offer, to learn from it, and then also to build on that to go to higher levels of skills training and qualifications. The Indian National Skill Qualification Framework and the different options, it's pegged to different levels of education that you have. So you need to have a grade 8 certificate for some skills training, grade 10 for others. So trying to get students to at least that level, allow them to access a greater range of skills training opportunities. And then I think the fourth and final point we've learned is how critically important it is to involve the community and build support in the community where you're bringing in these youth from. We found particularly for the Muslim women who we wanted to encourage to come in and do skills training, it was vitally important first to approach the religious leaders and other leaders of the community to explain the scheme to them, to show them the value. And then once you have that broader buy-in, it's much easier to convince families to allow their daughters to come to these kind of training programs if they know that they have the blessing of the religious leaders and that there is this general support and people feel that the scheme is there to improve their lives. So I'll just leave it on that. But it's been a great privilege to be able to work with the Government of India and the Ministry of Minority Affairs on this. And we certainly hope to see more schemes like this going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marguerite. And I see the virtual applause there. It's hard with all of our mute buttons to hear it, but I think, just the summary at the end was extremely helpful, I think, for everyone to think about how it could be adapted and used in their context, because I think the lessons you gave are very transferable to other places. And I think even in advanced countries, some of those lessons are very applicable because of, as we've seen with the pandemic, women not being able to juggle home and family, and what are some of the opportunities that can be held with different types of employment that facilitate this is, and I think also the inclusion by design that you raised up front, and how to adapt for particular populations. And I think that, digital skills, as you mentioned, is an area where those that maybe want to, that maybe need a bit of facility with the kinds of equipment, et cetera, but it's something that there's a skill capacity for. I think that's really exciting. And then I think the point you raised about community acceptance, which in a lot of different country contexts is going to be very, very important. So I think those lessons, hopefully, and colleagues, if you have questions as well for Marguerite on how to apply such a model in your countries, please feel free to put it in the question and answer component. Just one quick question, Marguerite, as we talked also about with Leo, a lot of the interest you raised was being able to then be sort of, in a sense, having their own business or be self-employed afterwards in order to support sort of work and family and the different socioeconomic and cultural conditions where they are. Were those skill sets that you also needed to include in addition to the more formal technical training associated with the different certificate type programs?
Yeah, thanks. That's a really good point to raise. That wasn't an area actually that was heavily emphasized in the scheme, but it's something I think moving forward where we see that in future there needs to be more emphasis on entrepreneurship training and helping people set up their own business, including microfinancing opportunities. This is an area definitely where there's room for more growth and improvement. And you see someone like Sujitha setting up her own tailoring business and then employing 6 other people. You know, one person can really start changing the economic health of their community. We have seen in another scheme we supported in Liberia for girls, where some of them had the opportunity to study business development and others could study more specific skills training options. Those that had the business skills training and entrepreneurial content actually had better employment outcomes later on. It seems like a really valuable skill set to focus more on. So I think that that's certainly something that I think, you know, in future we would want to build more consciously into schemes like this. Thanks for bringing that point up.
Yeah, no, great. No, thank you for that feedback, because I think it's helpful for others to hear about it. And I see that a couple of questions have come in also specifically for you, Marguerite. So first one, just to say that it was very useful for them and that they've been trying to approach youth. I can't tell where they're coming from because it says anonymous, but that this issue of involving the community to try and also help convince youth is a great idea. So I think you've already inspired somebody on that front, wherever they are. And then there's another question coming in from Prativa Joshi, and it's a question about the stipend, and in particular, and maybe some incentive structures here, and whether you think people were more interested in the stipend rather than the learning. Let's see, and then and if such training can catch accessible people rather than those who need it the most. So how do you, so I think there's some questions here about the incentive structure with stipends, and then reaching out to those that are perhaps particularly in need, if you have any comments on that question from one of our participants here today.
Sure. Let me just first address the community piece, because I'm really glad that resonated with this person. And we also found that bringing in community mobilizers. So the training agencies hired people from the community. They could have worked in other areas, but there were youth who were had more educated, had more life experience than some of the target youth that we were going for, but they were from the community. They knew the community, and they would go door to door or do different kinds of mobilizing to encourage our youth to join. So they kind of built that bridge of trust between the institution, the training agency, and the community. That was a great bridge, having a community mobilizer. So kind of, it was systematically done. In terms of the stipend, yeah, that's interesting. So for the stipend, you want to make sure, the stipend is there to address what we call an opportunity cost, that some of these people may already have a job, but it may be underemployment, that it's not really getting them anywhere. It's a very low level, low paying job. So if they have to leave that job to come to this training, they're going to lose that small amount of money. So the stipend helps address that opportunity cost. but also it's an incentive to join. You don't want it to be the only reason to join. So one thing we did was to ensure that we were targeting people who were below the poverty line, or from areas that were predominantly poor, so that you're generally, focusing on the right group. Also ensuring that stipends are conditional on performance or attendance requirements. So you have to do something, you have to show up to get the stipend. And some schemes organize it so that you get a bonus if you fully complete. So, you get your stipend every month as long as you're meeting certain attendance requirements. But if you complete, you pass your exam, you get an additional bonus. So trying to peg the money to incentivizing people to do the right thing and complete. And there's always going to be one or two people who are doing it for the wrong reasons, but there's also people who and the majority of people who really need these schemes, and the money is there to help make it easier for them to actually participate fully and not have economic pressures from home affecting them. We've also seen that, I think it was some of the schemes in South America, where you had to think about maybe a differential stipend in certain contexts for male versus female. In that case, they found that for men coming into the scheme, the stipend wasn't enough to address their opportunity cost of the lost employment. For women, it was enough. So men dropped out at a higher rate from the program than women. So just thinking about what are people leaving behind in order to join this scheme, and is the stipend addressing that loss for the groups? So stipends are complicated. It's definitely a tricky area. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Marguerite. And it's true that lots of different design issues come up when we're thinking about the incentive structures and what works and what doesn't. We have a couple other questions for you, Marguerite, that you'll see in the chat, in the question and answer, but I did want to get back to a general question to the full panel as well. And we have Alu from Liberia, who really wants to talk about how do you find the more hidden Leos? So what do we need to do? And I'm just curious if anybody on the panel has any ideas of what can be done to find more of these hidden Leos. So anyone who wants to jump in on that question, feel free.
Well, I think we all know some hidden Leos. Like, as I said, we want to see a transformation in the world. Yes, we want, but this transformation starts with the person who is next to us. I think that, Mindy, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think she started her job. We can put it like this because it's so much more. It's a gift, I believe. But I believe she started seeing other people. Am I right, Mindy? Like seeing the needs of the person who are next to you.
Yes.
Right? I think it starts with empathy, In my case, it was one opportunity that I had, and I jumped in this opportunity, but some people, they don't have access to the basic things, and we all know some kind of people who really needs it. So I think it starts with empathy. Is this right? The intonation?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Empathy, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. That's what I think, I actually have, just to close my thought, I actually have one friend. He lives in a poor place, and I enrolled him in a goldsmith course, the same school that formed me, that gave me the technical skills. I enrolled him to learn the skill I've learned. So wherever he wants to work with me or or not. I'm just giving another person the same opportunity I had, so yes.
Great. Well, I think also, having gone through this, you're an ambassador and have an incentive personally, I think, to help make it work. And as was mentioned in some of these others, somebody who got this training and then was able to employ more people is also helping to sort of spread the opportunity. But it's true that then there are some other sort of probably, and I think the different panelists might have comments on the sort of big picture infrastructure of public policy and how to help scale this up and adapt some of the existing programs to be more sensitive to the different concerns of different types of potential, skills program beneficiaries and participants. But I think I really like this word empathy, Leo, that you raised in thinking about how to understand and appreciate what others need in order to make it happen. And I think that come out in all three of the different panelists' examples. So we're about at the end of the session. I don't know if there are a couple more questions for you, Marguerite, as well, that you can see. I don't know if you can see there in the open question tab, but they generally are about how to replicate programs, and in particular also given your knowledge, I guess, with Liberia. So if you feel free, if you wanted to jump in on any of those questions. But I mean, I think, if the panelists have any other final comments that they want to make as well, while Marguerite's thinking about some of these questions that you want to add to the discussion before we close.
Thank you very much. I just want to also add a point in support of Leo. At times, it does not really take a person in that very same industry. For instance, many people ask me if I've ever worked as a domestic Quaker, or if my mother was a domestic Quaker. The honest truth is, I was never a domestic Quaker. My mother was never a domestic Quaker, but it's in sector that I'm so passionate about. My background is actually in human resources training. So maybe that background also helped a little bit. But all I'm saying is at times, you do not necessarily have to be a jeweler to make changes in the jewelry industry. You do not have to be a doctor to make changes in the health sector. Anyone can make changes in any sector. So if you feel that there are any challenges in your community and you have an idea on how to address these challenges, don't look for the next person. Look at yourself and make those changes yourself without looking for the next person. I believe we can all contribute something to our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mindy. And it's really a great point to say that we can all play a role, and we don't have to be contained by where we're coming from, but we can all think about where there are different needs and opportunities and contribute in our own ways from our own backgrounds. Marguerite, I don't know if you wanted to respond to any of these couple questions open here. I think you've addressed a lot of these issues of transferability, but if there's anything else you wanted to add.
I just wanted to add that I just love what Mindy said. And I think it's not just where can we find more Leos, where can we find more Mindys? I'm really inspired by both of these people, and I'm just a privilege just to listen to them reflect on what they've done. I'm just talking about someone else's experience, minority youth in India, and it's just very inspiring to be on the same panel with Leo and Mindy. So thanks for the opportunity. And in terms of, replicating these kind of schemes in different countries, and the World Bank works with countries all over the world, and we are continuing to work in Liberia, but any country, I think most countries are realizing that if you want to improve your economy, improve quality of life, women have to be part of the equation. And in many countries around the world, outcomes for women in general, not just minority women, are lagging behind men in many areas. So having that mindset that we need to bring everyone with us together and designing programs that incorporate everyone, all groups, are I think, key to most countries' prosperity. I also want to say that, okay, I work for the World Bank, and when you think of the World Bank, you think of finance and economy and money, but some of the best outcomes that we've seen in Mansell is the intangible. It's hearing someone talk about how their family respects them more now. You know, hearing a woman say, my mother-in-law has more respect for me now that I have my Class 8 certificate or my Class 10 certificate, or now I can help my children with their homework, you know, or I have a dream, I have aspirations. That means more than the money. Changing someone internally is a very powerful outcome. So I think I'd like to leave it on that note. Giving people dreams is the best outcome, I think, of any program. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Marguerite. So I think, you know, with those very inspiring words from an inspiring panel, we'll start to close out the session. I mean, I was really impressed also by the ability for what we could call some form of social innovation to then take root and adapt really to the specific needs of different individuals and types of workers and types of communities, and then figure out how to, through these innovations in program design and service delivery and training approaches, to then help mainstream and scale that up. So taking something from what was on the margins to the mainstream is the way also to help make sure that everyone, you don't have to have a special program, it's just out there as part of the general package of public policy. So I think that's something that all of the different programs and examples here help inspire for different policymakers to figure out how to make this work on a global scale. So thanks again to all of the panelists. And just a reminder now that the conference continues to move on over the next couple of days. And don't forget to register through the WorldSkills Conference website. And there are 2 sessions tomorrow dedicated to the future of apprenticeship systems. And then the conclusions again on Friday with a virtual museum tour and an outlook to the conference in 2022, and hopefully pandemic aside, that more opportunities to have these interesting exchanges and also to meet in person will be something that we can go and look forward to in 2022. So coming from the OECD, where we work a lot with countries like the US and Japan and everywhere in between, I think also this was very inspiring because a lot of those lessons are true really universally for any country, regardless of its level of development. So thanks for the opportunity to share and learn from you all here today, and to bring those messages back to many countries as well around the world. And thanks to all of our participants, and have a great afternoon or evening or rest of the morning, wherever you're dialing in from.